So the DNC put out their autopsy, basically trying to explain why they lost in 2024. And it was literally for the reasons that I said the day after Kamala lost on this channel. Um, who would have thought that saying that you're not Donald Trump, but not offering anything other than that, would have cost you an election? Who would have thought? Now, there are a few key factors outside of the DNC autopsy that I will give as to why they lost. A lot of young men were captured and bought into the culture war narrative that was not accurate, but they bought into that narrative, and so therefore that was why they casted their vote for Donald Trump. Foregoing the economic side of it, and not realizing that you can you can win the culture war, but your life is not going to be any better for it. Also, it was because Kamala Harris was the most unpopular vice president in history, being tied to the most popular or to the most unpopular president in history at the time. So, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's why. Maybe not having a real primary is also a big reason why. It's just a spit in the face and a fuck you to your base and your voters who did not want to sit at home but felt like they got screwed, so they sat at home. That's what happened. This is from the report itself. This divergence means the party and our candidates have lost the confidence and trust of voters. In the face of misinformation and disinformation, our candidates have proven incapable of protecting strength, unity, and leadership, and voters have drifted away. It's not even so much about strength, unity, and leadership. It's about combating the misinformation and then providing a solution that makes sense and is correct policy-wise. That's how you win. That's how you win. That's how you win. It's not just, oh, well, okay, so Donald Trump says something mildly racist. Let's say, oh, well, we should rake Donald Trump through the coals, which you should, but then not offer anything in terms of economics. Talk to people where they're at. Talk to them about their wallets, which is the part that most people care about the most, is their wallets. Indeed, many of our critical Democratic wins can be attributed to negative partisanship, where Republicans have nominated deeply flawed candidates, and we have been able to convince some Republicans and most independents to support Democrats in those contests. It shouldn't be about that. You need to worry about your own base first, you retards. You need to worry about your own base who didn't vote for you. You lost the left because of Gaza and because of policy. That's why you lost. You lost to a guy who admitted on tape to raping a woman. You lost to that guy because you ran on nothing. You had no vision. You just said, we're not him. And you thought that was gonna be enough. Indeed, many of our critical Democratic wins can be okay. All right. I'm trying to find. It cast the Biden operation as having neglected Harris. It's true. Prior to the midterm election, the White House directed the DNC to conduct polling to identify how Dr. Biden could support her husband as president. The research explored the settings, the issues, and the messages needed to create an effective framework. No similar research was conducted to support the vice president to identify the issues she should talk about, the ways in which she should talk about them, and the audiences with which she could perhaps resonate and support the president's agenda. There was also no independent research of the cabinet. The White House's approach towards elevating the vice president with a controversial issue, brief without leveraging research into understanding how taxpayers and voters would react to the messengers of the Democratic administration, was a massive missed opportunity. As a result, at the moment of the candidate switch, the polling team discovered there was no self-research on the vice president to guide the development of the research instruments. Another big part about that is actually rather simple too. When Kamala first announced that she would be the candidate, she had a big lead on Trump for like a month. Like coming out of the DNC, she was on fire. Problem was that the Biden people got in her ear and told her to stop talking about actual good policies and make everything flowery and unity and all that bullshit. She was ahead when she was talking economics and also calling Trump and Vance weird. That was actually working. That was actually working. And then, say what you want, she got him in the debate. Trump didn't do well. She didn't do great, but he didn't do well. Everybody says that. He didn't do well. And if the election had happened the next day, she probably would have won. Or if they had debated again and she had her same team, she probably would have won. Honestly, really. Probably. It pointed to a broader failure to define Trump. The retrospective evaluation of Donald Trump's presidency was too positive, giving the ability of right-wing entities to slash and smear the vice president. It was essential to prosecute a more effective case as to why Trump should have been disqualified from ever again taking office. The grounds were there, but the messaging did not make the case. Yeah, no shit. No shit. You call him a fascist, but then you don't explain why. You bring up Project 2025, but don't go into severe detail about it. You need receipts. You can't just say shit. You need receipts. That's very, very important, especially in this modern day and age. You need receipts. Absolutely. Absolutely. Says Harris and the campaign took too much for granted. Probably. The national campaign did not effectively drive Trump's negatives, and the White House did not effectively support Vice President Harris over 3.5 years to improve her standing before the candidate switch. The respective jobs approval for Trump was too high, and the campaign and allies failed to remind voters of his incompetence. The idea that Trump's negatives were baked in is a major failure of analysis and reality, given how his favorability has cratered less than a year into this term. The male voter problem was solvable. Stein won 51% of men, while Harris won 40%. That 11-point gap suggests fundamentally different approaches to male voter engagement. The Harris campaign appears to have focused heavily on women. Stein's results show some candidates can appeal strongly to women and compete effectively with men. Rural miscalculation. Stein's strong rural performances in North Carolina shows these areas remain competitive with the right candidate, and an approach Harris wrote off rural America, assuming urban-suburban margins would compensate. Wow. If that's true, that's fucking crazy. The math doesn't work. You can't lose rural areas by overwhelming margins and make it up elsewhere when rural voters are a significant share of the electorate. If Democrats are to reclaim leadership in the heartland of the South, candidates must perform well in rural turf. Show up, listen, and then do it again. The definition problem. Stein had a clear definition, attorney general with a strong record. Voters knew what he'd done and what he'd do. Harris struggled with definition beyond not Trump and prosecutor versus felon. The truncated campaign timeline didn't help, but the campaign did not quickly resolve on how to tag Trump and define Harris. That's true. That's all just factually accurate. Where the fuck was this in 2024? Where was this energy? It cast Trump's transgender ad as very damaging to Harris. Okay. Second, the pollsters were involved in discussions around the Trump attack ads. In particular, the attack ad focused on the vice president's prior statements on transgendered Americans. They all recognized the attack as very effective and felt the campaign was boxed. The ad was a video of her saying what she said, and it was framed as an attack on her economic priorities. If the vice president would not change her position, and she did not, then there was nothing which would have worked as a response. The pollsters generally concurred with the opinion shared by the campaign leadership. Given the stakes and timing, the focus needed to be on attacking Trump. But as Harris at least helped other Democrats more than Biden, Biden has claimed he still thinks he could have won the 2024 election. Nah, dog. No. No. You would have gotten mollywopped, homie. California was in play, dog. Sorry. Democrats can no longer assume Latino voters, especially younger Latino men, are a reliable part of their base. The party needs a complete rethink of its Latino outreach strategy, moving beyond traditional approaches like Spanish language ads and late cycle surrogates. Successful candidates like, uh, Gallego and Rosen showed how year-round presence, economic messaging, and addressing cost of living concerns resonate more than identity politics. Listen, Zoran Mamdani has done more in 5 months than the fucking Democrats have done in 40 years. Just saying. It's it's possible to do things when you actually fight for what you say that you're going to fight for. I know, radical thinking, right? Radical thinking. Oh, let's help people. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? You cast Republicans as just better at politics. They are, technically. There are a few hard and fast solutions. When an ecosystem invests so heavily in paid media and fundraising and events, or in paid voter contact through phones and texting, what gets left behind for the next campaign other than lists to rent or sell? Building to win requires new thinking, and building to last requires thinking about more than the next election. It requires finding the best way to connect with the right voters in the right places. And if 2024 has proven anything, there is enough money to do it all the right way. Then where the fuck was it? It contains many errors. It says Democrats need to spend earlier. What wasn't included, the report on some of the biggest and potentially juiciest aspects of the 2024 campaign. That includes any judgment about Biden's decision to run again, the impact of the war in Gaza, genocide, but thanks, which split Democrats, and the fact that Harris was allowed to take over the ticket without anything amounting to an electoral process for choosing a replacement. It also doesn't weigh in on Harris's failure to do an interview with podcast host Joe Rogan, in which many analysts have regarded as a major mistake. I'm not saying that she would have won, but that would have helped her. That actually would have helped her, potentially. It says Democrats failed to act on another post-mortem after the 2022 election. That's it, man. Like, that's just crazy. The fact that, like, they learn nothing. They learn nothing. And then wonder why people leave the party in droves. I wonder why.